Let's discuss self-defense, fitness, diet, environment, your empowerment. Hosted by your very own O'Shane Bryant. Yeah, man, so we're here yet again for another, what will be a thrilling discussion. We have here a very good friend of mine, a professional nutritionist, dietitian, and she's here now to assist all of us, myself including, in better understanding how proteins, the consumption of proteins, assist us towards achieving our health, fitness, performance goals. So this guest here, her name is Mrs. Stacy and Ricketts-Anderson. Yes, Stacy, so I would like for you just to give a brief introduction of who you are so that our guests may know a bit more of you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As O'Shane said earlier, I am Stacey Ricketts-Anderson, a registered dietitian, employed in the field for the past 13 years. And nutrition has really been my passion. It's something that I really love. I enjoy doing what I do. And I look forward to engaging and rewarding session today.
All right, good. All right, so Stacey, the focus for today is on protein supplementation, specifically geared towards busy adults. Adults who basically skip meals, and this more so is for the broader audience of the non-athlete segment of the population. So let us go through the discussion now. In the context of proteins, it's a case now that in the health and fitness industry, in Jamaica and worldwide even, there is this focus on protein supplementation. And, this thrust in protein supplementation has been pushed by professional fitness professionals, that is, sports coaches or athletes. And now it is something that is being adopted by the overall population. And it is specifically for persons being guided towards consuming more proteins in their diet. And this is more so that they can be able to satisfy whatever body composition goals that they may have, which is reducing body fat or gaining muscle, and then being able to be living in a state where they are feeling fuller for longer and they can do their work. So where it comes to proteins, Stacey, what are proteins in the context of nutrition? Let's start from there.
All right. So, looking at protein, the word was actually coined from a Greek word called proteos, and it means primary or first place. And, it's quite a complex molecule, um, made up of amino acids that are joined together. And this molecule does quite a number of work in the cells and is required for various structure and function and regulations in the bodies and tissues. If we look at it in terms of functioning from that standpoint, we think about growth and maintenance where protein is concerned. And this depends on the individual needs. So persons might, yes, push supplementation, but what is the need of this person? If you even look at it from an athletic standpoint, you might have different sporting activities that one might require far more than the other. And if you look at it from a non-athlete standpoint, then you also have some persons' requirements still different because it's also based on activity level. It's also based on weight, and it's based on other factors such as if the person is pregnant, breastfeeding, if they're fighting an illness. So you look at protein from that standpoint, and many persons, well, what is the literature is showing now in terms of protein intake? I do believe many persons, are not quite aware of the importance of protein, but the body has so many functions that protein is required. For example, chemical reaction that occurs inside or outside of the cell. And the protein is also involved in digestion, energy production, muscle contraction, even to the whole aspect of the clotting of the blood. We look at protein acting as a messenger because these are hormones or what we call chemical messengers that aid in communication between cells and tissues and organs. We also look at protein in terms of balancing fluids because it is very, very much needed to maintain fluid balance, and that is between the blood and the surrounding tissues. So we have two hormones, two proteins called albumin and globulin, and these maintain the body's fluid. And what happens is that when these tend to become low in the body, then what happens is that the fluid accumulate outside the cells, and then we have swelling and all of that. So protein intake is very, very important, and even from the standpoint of our immune health, protein form antibodies that helps the body to fight infections or fight off what we call invaders. And there also the action of transportation and storage, where we have transport proteins which carry substances throughout the bloodstream, in and out of the cells. And one such is like our glucose transporter, which move glucose to the cells. And we think about the lipoproteins, which transport cholesterol and other fats into the blood. So protein is very, very critical no matter what stage of life an individual is at.
Yeah, man, very thorough. So in a nutshell, protein is more than just being important for the building of muscle.
More
Pretty
important
much,
for just the building of muscle.
yeah, man, pretty much all aspects of our biological life we need proteins for.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right. So I also hear you mentioning this whole aspect of protein intake is dependent on, let's just say, the need of the person. So, your activity
Mm-hmm.
needs being different.
Yes.
Let's just say if you are a mother that is breastfeeding a child, or if it's a case that you are elderly. In this context, the needs of protein is really driven back down to the individual. That's what you're saying, correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because even if you look at it in terms of our elderly population, one of the things that tends to happen with our elderly, they tend to have a decreased intake. And when you have when the intake is decreased, then you understand that the person will be getting adequate protein. And when these persons don't get adequate protein, there's a result in terms of malnutrition. And they tend to lose their lean muscle mass. So their requirement will be very much higher than a younger individual.
Mm, mm. Right. And just to correlate what you're saying, I mean, the elderly population are more so susceptible for the whole risk of fall. So the slip and
Pause.
fall is
Yes.
one of the major risk factors for the elderly being injured, and
Yes.
osteoporosis as well. And that's the reason why in the context of exercise resistance training
Training,
is
right.
what is more so recommendation for the elderly. So if we're talking about resistance training, what resistance training is like, so for example, weightlifting, doing strength
Mm-hmm.
training to provide the body with the resistance necessary to stimulate muscle building or
Muscle
muscle
building.
maintenance
Yes.
and bone remodeling. So
Bone
this
density and
is
all, yeah.
yeah, this is now tying in the significance of proper nutrition, especially protein consumption, so that it supports muscle building in the context of the elderly population.
Get 50% off your fitness and diet assessment every Thursday to Friday between the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Your foundation for your safe, effective, and individualized tailored program. Send us a direct message. Email us at obfitness4u@gmail.com or visit our programs section on our website at joinobfitness.com for further discussion.
Right.
Yes.
So with us talking about this, and I mean, you've even touched a bit on this whole aspect of, needs difference and obviously age difference. And on that basis, that these factors would actually move us along the lines of understanding that if it's a case that as individuals we age, then how we absorb the proteins will differ, and how much proteins that we need will differ. Similarly, if we may have some form of ailment,
Yes.
such as disease, so to speak, that can affect how we absorb proteins, correct?
Protein. Yes, it does.
All right. So on that basis, now this more than likely will push us into this whole argument of how we consume protein. I mean, we're talking about whether or not we consume proteins through the solid means, which is the traditional chewing of food, and then the digestion or the liquid. So can you just talk a bit about the different ways that we can consume proteins in our diet?
All right. So when in terms of looking at protein consumption, again, we look at the individual that we are dealing with. So in our more healthy population, where persons can tolerate a more what we call um, normal consistency, mean they can eat them chicken, they can eat them fish, they can eat them tuna, etc. Then we understand that they will have a different form than for somebody else who might have dentures, not able to chew properly. Because one of the things also that aids in the proper absorption of protein is proper chewing, right? That increases the surface area for the relevant enzymes to act on. All right. So when we have the individual in front of us, then we also look at their capacity to masticate, etc. And so what will happen is that you will have to prepare the item or recommend items that they are able to manage. So yes, the traditional ways eating in terms of solid food, but then yes, you can also deal with liquid supplementation. Another aspect too is not only the elderly that can do this, but we also look at persons who are on the go, right? Who not able to stand up and, prepare say a cooked meal that tends to do, some amount of shakes in between that they tend to add some protein supplementation because they're on the go. So it's also necessary for, the busy person as we're discussing. So it can be both solid form, it can be both liquid form. It depends on the need and the individual that we're dealing with.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Right. So we're taking in all of these little tidbits to better understand the importance of protein and how protein can be absorbed in the body through digestion, whether it is through, us using our teeth to help break down the proteins, or us having to actually consume the protein in a liquid form on the go, whether it is through the protein powders, as an example. Right. So with that being said, we're pretty much on the line of protein supplementation, and this is basically us going a little bit more into this whole aspect of what we call ergogenic aid. So for us as a general population, and as individuals, for the whole maintenance of good health, consuming the right nutrient balance is important for the attaining and maintaining of good health. And the nutrient balance is speaking to macronutrients and micronutrients. And protein is a macronutrient, or one of the three main macronutrients, correct?
Yes.
Stacy? All right.
Yes.
So where it comes to our macronutrient consumption, specifically of protein, if it's a case that we can get it generally in our diet based on our needs, then generally it is considered that we don't need to supplement proteins. Is that the case, Stacy?
Yes, that is the case because as the word suggests, supplement, it is actually it's supplementing the diet. So it is putting, what it is ensuring that we can achieve what our target by supplementing what we have. So if the person is able to consume their requirement, there is no need for supplementation.
Keep up to date with everything that's happening with OB Fitness. Discounts, events, programs, news, and more. Subscribe to our email community now.
So I guess some persons who will be listening will be questioning what or how do they determine what is their requirement or how much protein do they need. So do you have like a rough way that people can, think about estimating how much protein they would need, let's just say for a typical adult male and a typical adult female within the healthy population?
All right. So how protein can be, how you can estimate your requirement. So say we have an individual who their requirement is say 1.2 gram of protein per kilogram body weight. All the person has to do based on what their weight is to multiply that figure by 1.2 and spread how much they get across the meals for the day. You might have another individual who might need more than 1.2 grams per kilogram body weight. They might need like a 1.5, and the principle remains. We also have persons who, in terms of their requirement, might be just 1 gram per kilogram body weight. So it depends on the individual. So what they can do, take that figure, multiply it by what their weight is. So if we have say a 75 kilogram person and their requirement is 1 gram per kilogram per day, then that's just 75 grams of protein. And that can be broken down across about 3 to 4 meals for the day.
All right. So just to give a little bit of context, 75 kilograms, if for the person who may not know, 1 kilogram is equivalent to 2.2 pounds.
2.2 pounds.
So in the context of 75 kilogram, you just need to multiply that by 2.2 and you can be able to arrive at what your weight is in pounds. And the converse to that or the inverse to that, if you know your weight in pounds, all you need to do is divide it by 2.2 to know how much your weight is in kilogram. All right. I know I heard you mentioning this, Stacy, and this is a good start point. So just in the context of some of the typical sources of protein that we may consume, like how many grams can we get? So I heard you mention like 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram. And we're multiplying this, let's just say or dividing this by the number of kilograms in the human body. In the scheme of food that we will actually eat, like how much grams of protein would we typically get in chicken or in beef or in fish or even plant-based, so that people can have a better context?
All right. So let's start with plant-based. So we're looking at, say, our typical peas and beans, right? For each half cup, and that is a standard 4-ounce measure. All right. In half cup, we're looking at an equivalent of 7 to 8 grams of protein. In terms of food from animals, say we have a chicken leg, and that chicken leg weighs, say, 3 ounces of protein, right? Or 90 grams. Within each ounce that is there is 7 grams of protein. So we'll multiply that 3 ounces by 7, which would give about 21 grams of protein. It is the same principle for any other animal protein, for example, beef, right? And when I give an idea of what 1 ounce is, I say visualize our small matchbox. That's what an ounce would look like. So if you do 1 ounce, say you do 3 ounces, is the same principle, 3 times 21, 3 times 7, which would give 21. We do have persons who use, say, for example, milk, which is, say, whole milk. Each 8 ounce, and when we say 8 ounce, that's 240 mils, right, gives 8 grams of protein. That's in 1 cup. One of the things, though, that persons have to be encouraged to remember is that one is not able to consume all their daily requirement in one meal. So when consuming protein, it's supposed to be spread across all the meals for the day. And then too, all right, so if we go even to the supplementation route, the protein in the various supplements in terms of ergonomic aids, it depends on what the scoop inside that protein is. For example, I came across one recently. They have a standard scoop in the package, and that scoop on the nutrition label, it says one scoop give you 25 grams of protein. So those can also be incorporated in terms of, when you're looking at the various types of protein that you have.
Get 50% off your fitness and diet assessment every Thursday to Friday between the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Your foundation for your safe, effective, and individualized tailored program. Send us a direct message. Email us at obfitness4u@gmail.com or visit our programs section on our website at joinobfitness.com for further discussion.
Indeed. And with all this that you're mentioning here now, it's basically giving a better picture in terms of, the number of meals that may be required for us to consume over a given day so that we can satisfy our protein requirements to maintain our lean mass and to maintain a good state of health. But this now would point us to the reality, which is to say that amongst many of us, there exists individuals who may eat only one time for the day, or they may, let's just say, not even eat at all. And this more likely will be based on their financial circumstance or the amount of time they may have, or it may be a case that they, based on what food is available, it's not really appealing to them. It doesn't, excite them enough to want to eat along that line. So when we look into this context, for many people, I believe they do know now that they need to be eating food, and they need to be eating more than what it is that they more likely would be eating. But the circumstances I just would have highlighted a while ago would make it difficult for them to make this a reality. I guess this is where protein supplementation will come in as being a very good alternative, or a very good bridge, if you will, right? And
Yes,
then
the bridge the gap, yes.
Being able to meet their protein requirement.
Yes.
All right. So when we look at it now, the question, because there's certain other questions that pop up in the top of my head, and one of them comes down to this whole aspect of fasting. I mean, people will fast for religious reasons, and then no, there will be people who will fast for this whole aspect of trying to achieve their body composition goals, reducing body fat, building muscle. So this now is leading me towards this popular fasting method, which is intermittent fasting. In the context of intermittent fasting, Stacy, and given your professional capacity, with the different methods that are there and what you may be aware of, how would you really classify it as being scientifically backed to say that yes, intermittent fasting as a dietary method is ideal for people to achieve or to maintain their daily protein needs?
All right. When it comes on to intermittent fasting, all right, one of the things that persons, coming across, dialoguing with persons, one of the things that I've recognized that persons don't realize much is that when it comes on to fasting, your fasting window is the period between your last meal today and your first meal tomorrow. There are persons who maintain a 12-hour window period, and so they have another 12 hours where they can consume enough, or whatever what we say, adequate protein. You also have persons who do a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour window to eat. So that means they have 8 hours in which they can consume. Now, in terms of what the literature has shown, the literature points to the fact that the body can only utilize a particular amount of protein at a meal time. So say, for example, and that is about 25, 30 grams. So say, for example, you have somebody who really wants, because when persons look at, say, in terms of weight loss, persons don't realize that it's not just to lose weight, but what you want to drop is fat. Not, you want to drop fat and maintain your lean muscle mass. So what you have happening in terms of such a long window period is not that they want to get the result in terms of weight loss. It might not necessarily mean fat mass loss. So if you're able, so if you can only consume 2 meals within that 8-hour window, and say, for example, your target protein is, say, 80 grams for the entire day, and your meal each meal you say have 40 and 40, the body will only use what it can manage at that moment. It will not necessarily use all of what you have given it, because the body, based on the literature, can process a certain amount of grams of protein at each meal. And that is why the recommendation is made for proper protein absorption to have smaller meals more frequently throughout the day to meet your target protein requirement. So depending on the fasting period window, might not be possible.
So to sum it all up, what I hear you saying is that for the popular intermittent fasting methods that may be practiced or adopted by the population, it's a case where for them who would try to eat within the 8-hour window, if they're following the 16-hour fast, 8-hour
right,
window principle, is that even if they are to try and let's just say cram all of their protein needs within that 8-hour window, chances are their body would not be able to absorb it all within that 8-hour window.
All within that 8-hour window.
Right. So
based on what the target is.
So in the context of them being able to achieve their weight loss goal, which should be predominantly fat weight loss, they more than likely would not be achieving that, because they would more so be losing muscle weight loss as well, or lean muscle weight loss as well.
Lean mass as well, yes.
All right. So what you're then suggesting or indicating is that adopting a dietary rhythm that is more so focused on eating more frequently throughout the day within smaller portions would mean, or would allow the body to be able to absorb more of the nutrients than you being in a state where you're trying to cram the body within that shorter time window. All right?
Yes, it's correct. And another thing too, for when you look at it, is when you're going to adapt a dietary pattern, you have to adapt something that is more sustainable. So if you look at what is out there, intermittent fasting is just for a short period of time. If literature exists that persons have been on it for years, I would love to see that literature. But what I've come across, intermittent fasting is used for short periods. So even if a person use the intermittent fasting to achieve weight goal, and not, as I said, not necessarily body fat loss, to achieve their weight goal, even after that period has ended, the person would still have to learn how to eat appropriately.
All right. I see where you're going, and I see what you're saying. So and I mean, again, we have to look at other things within this discussion here. I mean, intermittent fasting will subject the body to this whole metabolic state of ketosis, correct? And for some people, it can even be ketoacidosis. And long story short, is basically saying that your body would use the ketone bodies towards generating energy, and ketones are produced with the breakdown of body fat.
Of body fat, yes.
The thing about it now is that depending on how much ketone bodies exist in the bloodstream, that's where it can become acidic. So people can then have this whole sweet, fruity breath smell, which is a good sign. of ketoacidosis. And that basically would put you in a state where you can end up in shock. You can have low blood sugar, get weak, fatigued, etc. So
and
as
especially when it's not done under supervision.
Correct. So as Stacy said, if we're looking at sustainable diet adoption, intermittent fasting is not the way to go. The way to go from a sustainable point of view is to be eating smaller meals that are more so nutrient dense over the day, correct?
Yes.
That's the sustainable route. Not saying that you cannot achieve weight loss goals in the intermittent fasting method. However, you have to assess your goals and you have to make sure that you assess it in a way that is safe and practical for you. And that suggests that where necessary, you get the right consult with the professional. All right. That is what this is indicating or suggesting here.
Get 50% off your fitness and diet assessment every Thursday to Friday between the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Your foundation for your safe, effective, and individualized tailored program. Send us a direct message. Email us at obfitness4u@gmail.com or visit our programs section on our website at joinobfitness.com for further discussion.
All right. So a lot of thorough information is being shared through this discussion. And just to point us now into this whole focus on, weight loss, weight gain, I think from this last discussion a while ago, it can be agreed that if we want to be losing weight and specifically fat weight, then you need to be ensuring that you're thinking about how you are consuming your proteins throughout your given day. I mean, if you're going to fast, then it has to be a case where you need to try and ensure nonetheless that you're satisfying your daily requirement of protein, correct, Stacy?
Yes, sir, correct.
But this is more so where if it's a case that you are missing your meals because of work or because of the fact that you are not hungry for whatever reason it may be, stress, or it could be some family related issue, then you have to think about trying to satisfy your protein requirements another way. And this is why this whole wave of protein supplementation is in and more than likely will be in for a very long time. But when we think about weight gain now, how should we think about our protein intake towards achieving weight gain, Stacy?
All right. When it comes down to protein and weight gain, one of the things you have to look at is not just eating protein, but protein has to go with weight training or resistance training. So in terms of protein supplementation is the common strategy for weight gain, as the literature showed, but that has to be combined with resistant exercise. And what that results in is improvement in lean body mass and lower body strength.
Okay. So what you're saying is that to gain weight, we're not just talking about the consumption of protein, but we're also talking about us adopting an exercise regimen towards building muscle. And we're talking about doing heavyweight training to build muscle, to break down the muscle tissues and to stimulate the body towards rebuilding the muscle tissue and rebuilding bone tissue and other lean tissue so that we can gain weight. But in and of itself as well, what this is also leaning towards is the whole aspect of calorie intake. We have to think about it also in the context of how many calories we are taking in versus how many calories we are burning, correct?
Yes.
So we need more calories relative to the amount of calories we burn to gain weight.
To gain weight, yeah.
Less calories compared to the number of calories that you are taking in to lose weight. That is how you have to look at the nutrition as well as your physical activity if we're talking about losing weight or gaining weight. All right. And when we talk about it, we're also speaking about weight gain or weight loss or weight gain in the sense of it being healthy weight loss, weight change, or weight gain. All right. So I think the final segment that we can go into now is where it comes to you, Stacy, in your context of being, a professional yourself and to being, a wife on your own. How do you eat in a way that would actually support you being able to achieve your health and fitness goals? What is your current dietary structure like?
All right. In terms of my current dietary structure, one of the things that when it comes on to ensuring that you have optimal and appropriate intake is that you have to plan. And especially when you're a busy professional, pre-prep is going to be very important. So one of the approaches that I take is one, plan meals. So I look at what I have available in my cupboard, what is available in the fridge, and I plan accordingly. So I might say, all right, say Sunday, because the weekend, especially when you don't work, you tend to do a lot of more, of the pre-prep. So, if it's a case where you have to soak some peas and beans and to cook them and batch them, put in the freezer for during the week, then that's an approach that you can take. If it comes on, if you're somebody who is going to be having any form of like food from animal or meat, then you can season and portion that as well. So and then you decide on, okay, this is Monday, this is Tuesday, this is Thursday. You also have some persons who can, okay, I'm cooking today, Sunday, and this will keep me up until say Tuesday. So persons can also cook in bulk and portion accordingly. So those are some of the approaches that can be taken. Those are some of the approaches I take. And also when it comes on to in terms of meal planning too, also ensure that all foods from the food group is present. I also look at, because even when you look at it now in terms of how things are getting quite costly, because we have to be practical. One of the things is that, you make use of items that are in season. So I remember a couple of weeks ago, pineapple was a lot on the market, and I had pineapple and I had melon and all of that. I realized pineapple now, is practically going out of season, and the one and the two that you might find is like $300 per pound, and I'm like, all right, what is coming in now? June plum is coming on the market, and so you make a proper substitution. When you look at it, okay, carrot is on a costly end sometimes, right? How is pumpkin? So you also look at that, what is also cost effective, and also you look at what is also in terms of preparation, especially like within a week on a busy day, what is more quick to prepare. So meal prep and meal planning is going to be very, very, very crucial. And one of the things that even, on a daily basis when persons tend to show, that, I'm busy, I can't find time to eat, I can't find, time to run here and get something. One of the things that is also encouraged, which is a practice approach I take, is as much as possible to take my meals with me to work from home. So I don't have to, be in a frenzy when, it's approaching my mealtime and I don't know what to eat. I would have already have my meal packed in my bag. And so I'm able to eat on time. And I know I might be one of those, persons who are able to structure my mealtime in around certain activities at work. You also have other persons who might not be so flexible. So one of the things I normally encourage, and I look at persons and I say to them, okay, then what time do you tend to take a break? And then I show persons how to fit meal into certain times, which is also another approach that I also take. Another aspect to also planning is, even if one day out of every 2 weeks I plan to eat out, I also plan where I'm going to eat. So I will look at what are the options available and ensure that I'm choosing something that will meet my weight loss goal. So that's how I look at it in terms of my lifestyle.
All right, thank you very much for sharing. So, in a nutshell, you being able to attain and to maintain your dietary needs specific for proteins require planning, and it takes significant planning. And
Significant
the
planning
thorough
and
planning is done, whether it be on a weekly basis and even be done on a daily basis if you don't have that much time for the week. But you have to
yeah,
think about your meals and think about where you're getting them and
yes,
obviously how you will consume them. You can't just approach it ad hoc and think that you're going to satisfy your dietary needs.
dietary needs, yes. Because if you look
Similarly,
at what we have out in the market, a lot of what we have been popular around is the high fat foods, the fried, the excessive rice in terms of, carbohydrates, etc. So, that poses a challenge for many persons, what is available. And even when you might have one and two items that tend to be more on I put healthy in quotation because it's not that rice and peas is unhealthy. Once you portion that appropriately, you know, that can be a part of a balanced meal towards your goal, so I put healthy in quotations. It tends to be very, very much more costly to the individual. So what you have is that persons would tend to resort in terms of depending on what the spending power is, to something that is more within the budget. So, planning can alleviate some of that.
indeed, 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 indeed. Yeah, man. Well, a lot of information has been shared today, Stacy. So I want to give you, sincere thanks for sharing all that you have. And I hope that everyone who listens and consumes this content can be able to be benefited some way or another, just for the purpose of anybody who would want to be in contact with you or to work with you. Please share your information so that they may be able to get access to you for that purpose.
All right, definitely. All right. So if it's a contact number, the number is 208-0129. And if you want to get me via email, it is Ricketts-Dietetics, Ricketts Dietetics at gmail.com.
All right. Enough thanks, Stacey. Enough thanks. And again, yeah, man, we will have some further discussions around this matter of diet and nutrition. So that's it, people. Go forward and take in this information and apply it to your life. Until next time, take care.